Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Well, good morning. The time being 9 a.m, I declare open the general meeting for the Gladstone Regional Council for Tuesday, 5th September 2023. There is no apologies. Obviously, I'm online, calling this morning from Canberra as part of the Australian Local Government Association Strategic Planning meeting ahead of the National Local Roads and Transport Congress. No apologies. The next item on the agenda is prior notifications of conflicts of interest. Tanya, do we have any prior notifications?
No prior notifications, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. The next item on the agenda then is our messages of condolence, and I'll hand over to Councillor Cameron, then Councillor Branthwaite and Councillor Churchill.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to offer condolences to the family and friends of Jeffrey Charles Burton, aka Birdo. Jeffrey was the principal of Morgan Stockbrokers and Financial Planners. Jeff and his family arrived in Gladstone in 2020 and moved into the Morgans Group soon after that. In a former life, Jeff was a school teacher and very involved in sports with the schools that he taught. He is held in very high esteem by his students and colleagues. Jeff was a man of very simple pleasures and very much a no-fuss sort of a bloke. This was demonstrated at his memorial service. There was no casket, there was no funeral directors, just his family and friends, and his R.M. William boots and his sunglasses on the altar. Jeff's great pleasure in life was his family and his friends, and his favourite place was the beaches of Wild Cattle Island. And he walked there most days. Jeff's ashes are spread along those beaches. Jeff was a friend to me, a fishing buddy, and a fellow Rotarian. Jeff is survived by his wife Lisa, son Jake and his wife Tia, daughter Hannah with her husband Will, and the little girl Elsie. Jeff was 66 years old and a good bloke. May he rest in peace.
Councillor Cameron, Councillor Bradway.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to sort of probably reiterate what Councillor Cameron's just passed, the messages he's passed on. Jeff was a very good friend of mine as well, and the whole family was still is. But yeah, he's going to be sadly missed. It was very sudden as the onset of his illness, and it took everybody by pretty shocked. So we send our message of condolences and sympathy and regards out to Lisa and her family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Matt. It is with sadness and deep sympathy advised the passing and the funeral of Annie Maria Vidler, aged 92 years young. Anne was the widow of the late Alexander Francis Vidler and was a veteran member of the Gladstone branch of the Queensland Retired Police Association. And Annie was a resident at Bindaree Care Centre, who'd been able to look after her for many years. They do a marvellous job there. But to Ross Vidler, long time residents within the Gladstone region, and to all the Vidler family or the Vidler extended family, we express our deepest sympathy. Annie's funeral service and tribute was held at the graveside at the Boyne Tanner Memorial Cemetery last Monday. Rest in peace in God's care. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Is there any further messages of condolence? No, I'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the Mayor's statement. And I just want to focus today on the Port to Park. What a fantastic event that was in the Gladstone region, just held recently. Obviously, there was the shorter event, and then there was the 10K as well, raising funds for Rosebery Queensland and Youth Insurge Foundation. So thank you to the Gladstone Ports Corporation and all the volunteers involved in that event. It was a huge fundraiser, a very successful event. And of course, thank you to Sally Pearson for being our special guest on the day as well. Just coming up now, councillors, obviously you'll be aware we've got our apprentice and trainees program, which is now open. They close on the 15th of September. So anyone wanting to consider joining council next year, they start in February. Get their applications in now to join Gladstone Regional Council as an apprentices trainee, because we have some amazing opportunities there for you. Of course, it's the National Local Roads and Transport Congress happening in Canberra right now. And of course, starting today with our strategic planning meeting, which is why I'm obviously zooming in from Canberra. And we'll hand over to the Deputy Mayor shortly. But this weekend, it's all happening right across the region. We have the Boyne Valley Showcase that starts on Friday right through to Sunday. We've got PopCon at the Gladstone Entertainment Convention Centre. That's from 11 to 5 p.m. More information on our website. Captain Creek have got their markets this Saturday as well. And then coming up, of course, we also have Clean Up Australia Day on the 16th of September. So you can register a group through Council's website there. The Under the Trees Festival is back again in Boyne Island on the 15th and 16th of September. And of course, the Baffle Creek Family Fishing Festival as well on the 18th to the 22nd of September. And Welcome Week as well. We've got Welcome Week at the Phillip Street Communities Precinct on the 16th of September from 9 to 12. There is so much happening right across the region. Of course, on Council's website or our social media for more information on those. Now, councillors, we have two more items before I hand over to the Deputy. The first is the confirmation of the minutes. G2.1 is the confirmation of the general meeting minutes for the 15th of August. Can I have a mover, please? Move, Councillor Trevor, seconded Councillor Branthwaite. All in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you. And Then we have a procedural motion because we have a deputation this morning, which came in late, councillors, but I'm sure you all agree was appropriate that we bring this forward. So I have a procedural motion that the urgent business item G 6.1, deputation Clearview Christian College, be included in the agenda and be brought forward to be discussed next. And I'll move that from the chair. Second, please. Thank you, Councillor. Who was that, sorry? Councillor Churchill. Thank you. All in favour? Motion is carried. I'll now welcome our guests. We've got Dean, we've got Anthony, we've got Manny to the table, and I'll hand over to the Deputy Mayor to continue chairing the meeting from here. Thank you and welcome to our guests.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Over to yourself, Dean and Anthony, and look forward to the deputation. Thank you.
Well, good morning, Mayor Burnett, Deputy Mayor Goodluck, councillors, Madam CEO and General Managers. Firstly, thank you for allowing us to come along to this deputation at such short notice. Obviously, with our multi-sport centre concept proposal, there's some deadlines with our funding application with the state government. So, yeah, we really appreciate your time and meeting for us to meet today. Firstly, I just wanted to say Clearview Christian College has commenced as a high school this year in 2023. Not sure if most of you should be aware. By now, the journey started back in 2019, and pretty much from that point, we had always wanted to be open and upfront, transparent with council. Probably started at Boyne Island McDonald's with Councillor Goodluck back then. And I might just highlight he did pay for his own coffee back then. He wouldn't let us shout him a coffee. So, you know, we just started around a table there, Anthony and myself, and we had no land, no money, no buildings, just something we wanted to feel that Boyne Tanham community was lacking, and council identified that in 2014 that an independent high school would eventually need to be established. And unfortunately, we couldn't get the $66 million that Calliope State High School got. So with independent schooling, we had to start the hard way with no money, just a dream, and people just jumped on that. And many people in this room have played a significant part, councillors and council staff. How we basically got it off the ground is the 10 Yellow site, which is the Anglican Church owned for many years. We end up purchasing that, and the local community basically dug deep, and pretty much with time and close to $1 million that people contributed to get the school up and running. And we started with 32 families this year, and next year year 7s is now booked out, and we have a waiting list. So the big draw card, I think, is just there's another independent alternate solution for high school. We focus on a hybrid outdoor learning model, which a lot of the kids have really embraced. They get outdoors on the beach, embrace the community. And yeah, so it's starting to have a good name in the community, and that's something as you start, you know, word of mouth is your biggest marketing driver. So here's just a quick snapshot of the master plan. We've got a master plan here. So by 2026, we're looking at around 100 students. So these things, I think, once you start them, they just get momentum. And like I said, word of mouth. And with the growing numbers, obviously, we need buildings as well. So that's just a quick snapshot of where Clearview Christian College is at the moment. And I'll just hand over to Anthony to talk more about the funding.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much again for inviting us along. And I'm sure it's not an easy thing to shift around all the agendas, so we do thank you for that. Where we've come from is we're looking to apply for the Go for Gold grant, which is an initiative from the Queensland Government. It's $93 million to increase sporting participation especially with students, but definitely with the community. And the community is a major factor in the grant proposal and also the criteria. And so we, the whole way through, have tried to connect with the community. And what we've done is initially we connected with 44 different community groups, community sporting organisations, and various other bodies. And out of that, we had discussions with 33, and we've had 22 community groups, community sporting organisations come back and say this would fill an infrastructure gap in Boyne Island, Tannum Sands, and even in the greater Gladstone region. And so we've also then connected with 11 state sporting bodies. Of those 11 state sporting bodies, 6 sporting bodies said that they would love to partner with us in bringing coaching, especially either free or cheaper coaching facilities to Boyne Tannum and the Gladstone region. And then we've also partnered with 2 universities who are going to partner with us to bring a virtual sporting precinct, hub, area to our sports centre as well. And so it's been something that we've walked with the community with the whole way through, and we actually created our whole design plan based on the feedback that we got from the community. And we've developed from that a strong needs analysis, and we predict we would expect to have up to almost 18,000 annual users, and of that about 900 unique users a year would use the facility. And so this is a concept plan, and I think you'll all notice that we've been fairly economical in our design. What we've tried to do is we literally just spoke to each of the stakeholders involved, and we went, what is it that's missing from Boyne Tannum and the Gladstone region that it would do? And basically we pared back we cut off all the gold plating we could, we cut off everything we could to just go, what is the basic thing that you need to be able to do more sporting and to be able to get more sporting participation? And so this is what effectively the community came up with through consultation, and it's effectively a multi-sport court. So I don't know whether you can see that there, but it's volleyball courts and badminton courts and futsal and basketball, and we've also got the possibility of playing European handball on it and various other sports. And then we've got a gym which, especially the high performance units of the various sporting clubs and also the representative teams, said that's something that each of them are missing. And as part of that gym there, we've got this virtual sports area, which personally I'm very excited about the possibilities that could bring to the Gladstone region. These are some of the sports it could cater for, and one of the things we're focusing on there, as I said, is virtual sports, but also we've found that there's very little available facilities for those who are disabled, and so we've intentionally joined with the Gladstone Special Olympics to try to develop facilities that they could use as well. We've found, compared to state participation levels and the Boyne Tannum participation levels, there's 1,984 people, or 19.7% of the Boyne Tannum community is disengaged with sports, primarily it would seem because there's a lack of facilities around. As I'm sure all you would know, Boyne Tannum has no facilities for basketball, is a big one, and basketball is a major sport in the whole of Queensland. Basketball's a big one, futsal's a big one, and then some of the other things that we've found is there's potential for 19.7% increase. And our limiting factor with this design is literally going to be the room that we have. We don't believe we'll have any issue at all filling it out at 100% capacity. The issue will be it'll be full and there'll still be people who are wanting to use more sporting facilities. We've particularly looked around diverse community, and as shown in Council's profile on Boyne Tannum, we actually have a 50%. We had a 50% increase in single-parent families between 2011 and 2021. And so there's a lot of single-parent families, and through discussions that we've had, one of the major barriers there for single-parent families especially is time constraints and distance constraints. And so although we've got amazing facilities in Gladstone, there is a limited ability for those families to be able to get into Gladstone for sporting opportunities, as well as people who require assistance with core activities. As we quickly run through we had a look at the biggest barriers to participation, and we found that 12 to 17-year-olds are the most likely cohort to become disengaged in sport. And so being a high school, we're actually right in the correct market there, if I use those words, to be able to engage with these people. And 30.7% of Queensland parents said it's that lack of time, and it's the too many commitments, which is the major barrier to sport. And what we found internally is, of the Clearview students who don't participate in sport, 37.9% of them said it was a lack of confidence around sporting ability. And so we believe that if we can bring sporting ability back to a small, local, diverse facility, then hopefully we're able to fill students and the general community with more confidence to be able to join in with clubs and increase that ability to happen. And so as we talk to the community and these 33 community groups, we found that some of the issues that we have is a lot of our local schools down in Boyne-Tanham, they've got some great facilities, but through various reasons, it's either hard for community groups to hire those facilities, or those facilities just aren't available at all. And so we're looking at how we can access that and how we can change that. And one of the things we're doing with that is we've actually got a 10-year agreement with the landholder that they've said the only way you'll get in principle approval for building is to use this for the community for 10 years, as well as the grant outline says that it has to be used for community facilities for 10 years. We also found nighttime use is an issue. Disability access, as I said, only 3% of Gladstone region sporting facilities, Special Olympics Gladstone told us, can be used by people with disability. And the other major issue we have is wet weather use. Tennis, netball were the major ones that said, as soon as it rains, we can't use our facilities. As council would know, there are plenty of benefits to sporting facilities and the ability to increase sporting participation, so we won't stay on there too long. As we spoke before, we're looking around this idea of digital sports, and what we've found in talking to the local community is a lot of specialised coaches just don't live in the Gladstone region. And so one of the things we're trying to develop is this digital sports facility where a student or a member of the community could connect with a coach from Brisbane, from America, from wherever, and could get coaching online in a virtual sports centre, or otherwise we're seeing a place where community members could come in and they could, say, ride the Tour de France, and the bike, the Zwift bike or whatever it might be at the time, would actually put in the terrain and the resistance so that someone here in Gladstone could ride the Tour de France or could ride anything else. In fact, just this year, there was the first Singapore Virtual Olympics that opened. And so we see that more and more this ability to be able to do virtual sports will just increase. And so if we can get on the ground floor here, we have the ability in Gladstone to have a fantastic facility that would help us. Here's our issue, and here's the reason we've come to council this morning. Estimates tell us that our multi-sport centre is about $1.9 million to build. In having our pre-lodgement meeting, what we found is that if we just use it for a school, there's a chance that we would be able to do it without needing a material change of use. But the moment that we use it for community use, it needs to have a material change of use. As all of Gladstone Council would know, that road at Canoe Point Road definitely does need something done with it. And our preliminary estimates say that the 350 metre stretch of road is about $1.2 million to upgrade, and then the footpath, which runs from Canoe Point all the way to Hampton Drive, is about a further $450,000 to upgrade. And effectively, this is our roadblock. We would love to do this. We'd love to apply for this grant, but the 1.8 million there really just holds back our ability to be able to do anything with it. And so more or less we wanted to just come to the council today and just go, can we work together and just have the conversation on, is there anything we can do here to bring this here and to upgrade the road and footpath. Canoe Point Road is the only road in Tanham Sands that sits on the Priority A list of the Principal Cycling Network from the Queensland Government, which does not currently have a footpath. It's also listed in the Gladstone Council's local roads of regional significance. We got traffic counts from Gladstone Council which showed that 672 vehicles use that per day on the weekend. And of that, 574 people, or almost 6% of the Boyne-Tanham community, use the 7 charities along this road every single week. And I think that's been one of the hard things, is that road is only charities. Sorry, charities and one community sporting group, but that is all that exists on that road. And so from the charity and not-for-profit area, where we all rely on community support to be able to function, and there are no charities along that road that have the ability to pay the $1.8 million required to do it. Really quickly, as I said, we've got 7 charities and 1 community sport group along that 350 metres, and we've got another 3 community sport groups who use this road once a week to access Canoe Point. And we've got almost 6% of Boyne-Tanham who go to a community event or access a community service each week using this road. The moment you think about Men's Shed or Girl Guides or Meals on Wheels or the Tennis Association, Park Run, the list just goes on and on and on and on. In fact, we estimate that 13% of Boyne-Tanham residents would use this road once a term to access a charity event or a charity service. It's significant. I've been speaking to some of the members of the community. Cole works at Men's Shed. Well, he volunteers at Men's Shed. He's the treasurer there, and he's been there almost since its inception, and yet he's on a mobility scooter. And he said that every time he rides down or drives down Canoe Point Road, he's always on the lookout for cars, because the moment 2 cars come across, he can't fit on the road as well, and so he has to leave the road to go onto the gravel. And he said that every time he does so, there's a little bit of fear and apprehension. We talked to a lady named Katie, and Katie every day pushes her double pram to Canoe Point. And she said she'd love for her kids to be able to ride to Canoe Point, but she doesn't feel safe using that road with her kids on the gravel going through there. And St. Francis Catholic Primary School, at least once a term, they send over 200 students, over 35 staff members, and many members of the community walk along the side of that road. And from our perspective and our point of view, I'm scared for them, let alone being a student who's walking along there in primary school. And we're not here today to argue that the road doesn't need doing. We're not here to argue that the material change of use requirements shouldn't be in place. We're not here to argue that we shouldn't even bear some of that responsibility. We're only coming and just asking, is there a way that we could work together, or is there a way that we could talk about seeing what we could do with this road? As I'm sure the Gladstone Council is aware, the road hierarchy policy is the one that's saying that this road isn't up to where the policy needs to be, and there's various reasons for that. I don't need to talk about that too much, but we would love to have a place where Canoe Point Road was safe and easily accessible, and we would love to have a place where we could have community sporting facilities on our site there, and so we wanted to come and talk to Council about that today.
Yeah, thank you for that, Anthony. Yeah, so just to second what Anthony said, we're basically just here for to be transparent with council, and obviously this project largely hinges on that funding on the road, and so we'd just like to basically have a commitment from council that, well, a memorandum of understanding of some sort that council is willing to assist with some trunk infrastructure upgrades, and my understanding is council have put this on their work schedule, but it's just a timing factor. I believe this funding has to be the acquittal. It has to be done by the end of 2025, so it's not saying to council, hey, we need a check today and to build tomorrow. There's another budget up council's sleeve that this could be factored into. So we just want to take this time to thank Mayor Burnett, Deputy Mayor Goodluck, CEO Lisa, councillors and general managers, and yeah, just like I said, if we could ask for some form of commitment And I'll just put it out there, where this application is, we have to lodge on the 15th of September, hence why the urgent meeting today. And yeah, thanks again for listening to our talk.
Thank you, Dean. Thanks, Anthony. Was there any questions, councillors? Mr. Mayor, you're good?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Obviously, we'll have to get some information back from our management team, but obviously that'll need to be quick. So, yeah, thank you, Dean. Thank you, Anthony, for that deputation, and I have no doubt our officers will be able to provide councillors with more information and give you an answer, hopefully, well, not hopefully, we'll give you an answer before your submission closes.
Thank you.
Councillor Cameron.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Look, thank you for your presentation. Very thorough. All the information that we would require would be there. Clearly, we can't give you a commitment today.
Yeah.
But certainly give this some priority. As far as the material change of use is concerned, you've had a pre-lodgement meeting with our people, have you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I would have thought that if your project, being the school, was primarily educational, I don't believe you would need a material change of use, because I mean, a lot of these situations, it's what you call it and how you present it is the result that you get. Infrastructure-wise, I noticed that there will be no upgrades required to water sewage assets, so that's not going to be an impediment to it. As far as the road goes, I would think that our planning department would put conditions on that road be upgraded as a part of the application. It's just a matter of who owns the job and who's going to pay for it, I guess, and that's why you're here today. But anyway, look, yeah, very impressed, and like I said to you earlier, it's a very, very ambitious project that you've gone on for a small school the size it is. It's great, and yeah, I'd like to give full support behind it, and thank you for your deputation.
Councillor Muscat.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Khan. Yeah, well, it was a really nice presentation. Thank you. And I do have a question, but I wanted to say that, you know, I guess knowing from where you guys come from and when you had those ideas, and, you know, it definitely does take some special people to get things done. And I thank you for being one of those people. So, in relation to the grant that you're going to apply, so I guess what are the conditions exactly there that the government is asking you to have from council in order to, I guess, for you to be eligible or be more likely to be successful? And I'm thinking, you know, it could be anywhere from, I don't know, a letter of support or an approval that, you know, we are going to bear the cost, or what is it, or you're going to be exempt, or if you can just give us a bit more clarity around that, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Muscat. So to answer your first question, the criteria primarily sits around increasing sports participation and then also community sports participation. What we need to provide to the government is estimated costs and also who will bear the brunt of those costs. And so it isn't, from what I understand and in talking to the project directors, it isn't a case of going, that's in writing, now you can't change it. And so there is a place where we could say, we know we're doing a material change of use, or we know that will be required, and we know roughly the costs that it will be, and we can say the school at this stage will pay for it. Between you and me, the school can't pay for it. And everyone else on live stream, the school can't pay for it. But down the track, we can have that conversation with the state government, and obviously as we go into, if we access the grant before we sign any funding documentation, we would have to go, well, we know how that road is happening. And so although there's probably a part of me that if we have to do the material change of use, obviously there's fees associated with that, as there should be. And so we're just sort of going on our side. We don't want to jump into that without any sort of, let's at least have the conversation. But if council in general is, hey, let's continue to talk about this, I think we're willing to take the risk, go, the school will pay the fees, and if we can work something out along the road, we'll work something out with that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess you don't require at this stage something that says our council's going to pay for this. It's more about like we will work through the process and see how we can come to a good outcome for everybody.
Yes.
So I just still don't necessarily know, but that's probably a question for me for our officers and how that looks in practical
And
terms.
Sorry, on that, Mayor Burnett has provided us with a letter of support. And so I think from our grant application process, that's fantastic, and we thank Mayor Burnett for that. But in terms of funding, I think that's something we can continue to look at as we walk down the road.
Thank you.
Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Khan. Yeah, look, thanks, Anthony. Thanks, Dean. Appropriately, you mentioned all groups along the road as such, and those that are going there as a result of those charities along the road, but don't undervalue the significance of the destination from a tourism perspective for that particular part of our region, for many different reasons. Not only just locals that use it, but those from the greater Gladstone region and those from outside our region. So, and that adds an extra string to the bow in relation to the development of that part of the destination in the southern Great Barrier Reef. But I'm happy to move that the deputation from the Clearview Christian College be received. Unless there's other questions.
Move, Councillor Churchill. I'll get a seconder before we go to Councillor Cameron. Thank you. Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, team. Great report, great presentation. From recollection, you indicated that the fiscal envelope for this round is a total of 93 million. And that is in respect of the whole of the state of Queensland. And when is it likely that the outcome of your application, assuming that you make it, will be known?
Thank you. Yes, so 93 million. We sit in a special moment in terms of this funding opportunity. 40% of the funding opportunity is actually based on what we call an ICSIA score, which is it's an amount of your socio-economic and socio-educational disadvantage. And because we just started this year, we don't have an ICSIA value for last year, which according to the grant providers actually puts us at the top tier of, the bottom tier of that, the most disadvantaged. And so for this year only, we actually have an amazing opportunity to be able to access this funding that we would not be able to get any other time. And so that's one of the reasons we're pushing towards it this year. But to answer your question, May 2024 is when it's announced. So September 15th it needs to be put in, and then we'll hear something back from a preliminary idea in February with the funding announced in May.
Great, thanks for that. That's very informative. The other two questions I had were, is there a round two, assuming that you're unsuccessful in respect of round one?
This is round two. Round one was to do with sports equipment, and we were successful in that grant. This round is to do with sports infrastructure, and this is a one only.
So there's no round three. So you sink or swim depending on how this application goes, not any subsequent applications, unless there's an extension of the program, for example. And is it the case that without council support to spend the $1.8 million on the road, your application cannot proceed?
Not necessarily. So I would have to talk with the planning department again. we have the school co-located with a church and also a mental health charity. All are on the same site there. And so potentially we've got obviously Scouts and Girl Guides just next door to us, and then the tennis club's on that same lot. And so I don't know at which point it changes from being educational use to community use. And so it would be a discussion with the planning department and just going at what point does that line get crossed. We do need to have community support to do a $2 million facility. If we were to just put down a hard court, then we don't need community support for it, but it also doesn't meet the needs of wet weather and all of the other things associated with our opportunity here.
And I just wanted to add, Councillor Trevor, is basically that 1.8 million, and obviously to everyone else online as well, is we didn't want to just dial down the numbers. We wanted to do it, paint a full picture, hence the 1.8. When you look at it, you're like, oh, wow. But then when you start to go, okay, that's 350 metres of road. Councillor Churchill made a good point with it opens up Canoe Point. And it's probably the last main road, you know, the Esplanade's all upgraded. Canoe Point itself, the precinct's upgraded with the boardwalks, etc. It's just that road and footpath and access. But that footpath going back all the way to Hampton Drive. So it's not just a strip of concrete in front of the school. It's doing the whole thing, doing it properly, just so when the community use it, it's like, great, we can walk from A to B. It's not just, you can see sometimes developments happen and it's just a concrete, because that's a part of the town planning. There's nothing, concrete, nothing. We'd prefer to just go, hey, let's partner with council, let's do it. It's probably been the elephant in the room for some time, that road, and not just when we started, but Taniela's been there, was probably close to 40 years, and that road probably looked the same for that time. So,
thanks, Dean. Anthony, the $1.8 million for the multi-sports complex, is that including a component of car parking on site, or would that be included on the road verge? Has that been accounted for?
So no, it hasn't. The $1.9 million is just for the multi-sports court. My thinking would be anything done on site obviously is the school. It's a cost of doing business. It is an ineligible cost to have car parks, is ineligible in this grant. But in talking to council officers, council does have a policy around educational facilities, and one of the policy points there is that car parking isn't done on the road verge. So we've been working with council officers to try to get some more safety in there, and I believe that we've gotten A ways, but I think anyone who's seen that area still knows that there is A ways to go with car parking, disability car parking and the like. And so we haven't got the exact numbers on the car parking. We are able to, as a school, we are able to access some government funding, which could definitely be a discussion, both for roads and footpaths, but also for car parking. It sits around 50%, around 50% of whatever the school needs to pay, the government will need to pay, or the government will pay, hopefully, if we can get the grant for that. They would contribute about 50% of whatever Gladstone Council puts on us as costs, and so that can include both car parking and road and footpath upgrades. And so I think even that would be some of our discussion that we would love to have, is how we could literally partner together with that and see whether we can't find a solution that works.
Would you have room on your site if you're going to have, I think it was about 18,000 estimated visitors to the complex a year? You're going to need some considerable car parking. Would there be room on your side, or is that an absolute no, or would we need to look at other solutions?
Sure. So it's 900 unique users. Yep. 100 of them will be the school, and probably 7,000 of those will be school use. You know, if we've got 40 students or 30 students using the hard courts a day over 40 weeks. That's about 8,000 people. And so what I haven't done, that's if they would all fit. I suspect that if we run the numbers on how many people can use the court, that's how much capacity there is to use it according to all of the community groups we've spoken to and how many people they would like to use that. But I think our timetable will fill up long before we've accessed 22 community groups to use the area. In regards to the car parking, already, and again, I would dare say council would know about this, Men's Shed uses our car parks currently, and so we've already got a partnership with Men's Shed there, and car parking is an issue for them, and car parking will become an issue for us. We're in the process, that's our preliminary master plan. Maybe offline, I'd be happy to share some of our more formal master plans that we're looking at doing for, say, the next 10 years. And that has in it facilities for car parking, which are formal facilities there.
I think what you're, I think what you're raising is there's a whole lot of other questions that need to be asked and the answers sought. And I'm sure our experts within council who are close to it could work with you. Because from my perspective, I would simply love to know what is your zenith, what's your potential, what is your growth ultimate for students down there over the next 5 to 10 years.
Can we share that?
Yeah.
No,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Because absolutely.
They're the sort of questions that were asked when Discovery Coast Christian College started. You know, stage 1, stage 2, and now it's just blossomed. So
yes.
Well, you gave us an estimate before, though.
That's for 2026.
Yes.
To
2026.
Oh, sorry. Yes. By 2026, we expect to have 100
That's only
students.
3 years away. It's not
That's
very
only 3
far
years
away.
Yes.
Councillor Trevor.
Chair, one more question. You may have already answered it. Assuming that council doesn't partner with you and we don't agree to bring the road upgrade forward, will this project for your school and the community still be able to proceed?
My belief is for the school, it will be able to proceed. We may have to pare some of that back to fit within the planning requirements to not upgrade the road. From everything I understand from talking to Gladstone Council's planning department, it will not be usable for community use at all.
And then I'll just add to that, I think what we, and hence us coming here today, is just we don't want to be like a standoff and who's going to trigger the road first. We just want to go, hey, and just keep seconding what Councillor Churchill said. Like, there's already, if you go past Booth Avenue, there's a new Canoe Point sign there, and it's really pointing to the precinct. And I think it'll just add to it, even forget this project, but just coming down Caledon Street, seeing bitumen, a footpath 2 metre wide, council standard I believe is now, it'll just open up that whole precinct. So I think that's why we just want to be transparent, come to council and say, hey, let's do it right from the outset. If we can get some state funding, let's partner with council. We know council's community minded, and we got on this journey from the start to just be community minded, not for profit. We don't get $1, so we're just doing it because we love Boyne Tanham, and we know our mayor does too. And everyone else in the region and the constituents online. So, thank you.
Thank you, Anthony and Dean. I don't think there's any more questions, but you guys have been aspirational, and you've been doers, and you've achieved things, and this is another aspirational goal, and we'll take that. We've got a mover and a seconder to receive the deputation. We'll be in touch in the near future. So thank you very much for your time today. Yes, we have to pass the motion. So I will put the motion. It's moved by Councillor Churchill, seconded by Councillor Cameron, I think it was. Is that correct? Yep. We'll put the motion. All those in favour, we'll declare it carried that we receive the deputation. Thank you very much, guys. Take care. We move now on to Item number G/2.1, I believe, confirmation of the minutes. We haven't confirmed the minutes, have we, Mr. Mayor? We did that, sorry. Okay, we move past that. So item number G/4.1, vacant property concession. And we'll hand now over to the General Manager for Finance, Governance and Risk, Mark Holmes. Thank you, Mark.
Morning, Mayor, morning, Deputy Mayor, morning, councillors. This item is with respect to looking to get your approval to grant a concession to applicable vacant properties, just to correct for essentially a misalignment in the rate that was applied for those during the levy this year. We had a look and have adopted a revenue statement that talks about aligning our vacant properties with residential. Essentially, the effect of the rate in the dollar that was applied didn't actually do that, and actually held that in alignment with the NPPR category. So what we're seeking is that amendment, and the way to do that, we can't amend the budget in any other way, but we can grant a concession to essentially allow that to flow through. This does impact 447 properties, and this is probably the best way to make sure that we are living into the essentially what you've actually put forward as your budget. So it doesn't actually impact what you, from an overall rating perspective, your target budget, because essentially this has essentially been rated in error.
Thank you, Mark. Mr. Mayor.
Happy to move, thank you.
Happy to second.
Move Mayor Burnett, seconded Councillor Hanson. No further questions?
Touch of common sense. Thank you.
No. We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Declare it carried. Thank you, Mark. We move now on to item number G/4.2, gates and grids, subordinate local law, and back to the General Manager for Finance, Governance and Risk, Mark Holmes. Thank you.
So this one is with respect to essentially going through our process of making our local laws to bring to life your recent amendments you made to your gates and grid policy. We do have Vicky Hanson online, one of our senior governance business partner, to take you through any questions you may have in this space as well. But the process in terms of going through and making a local law to outwork that is a very formal process, and this is actually the very next stage of that. So in your paper there, it outlines the 10 steps that essentially we go through, and this essentially only takes us really through to essentially that, only really at that third stage there, making the local law. So we're now going through a period of public consultation once we make this local law, and then work through that. But essentially this is outworking the policy that was adopted in May.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions? Councillor Churchill. Move Councillor Churchill. Seconded Councillor Cameron. No further questions. We'll put the motion. All those in favour? We declare it carried. Thank you, Mark. Item number G/4.3, review of risk management policy and risk appetite. Back to you, Mark. Thank you.
Councillors, you'll recall in 2020 we adopted essentially a revision of our risk management policy at that time, and we took a stance with respect to what our risk appetite was essentially across a number of the different categories of risk there. So part of the review of that policy, whilst we're not proposing any changes to the policy itself, it is an opportune time to look to see whether essentially we wanted to reaffirm the risk appetite that is outlined in the paper there and what you have adopted in the previous policy, or whether we actually want to make amendments to that. So we've got those varying types of risk, and certainly we're talking about financial, reputational, environmental, our regulatory, our service delivery, as well as and health, safety and wellbeing. So we've adopted a minimal risk with most of those, except for financial and service delivery, where we actually take a moderate residual risk appetite. But looking at your input to that, so we can essentially include your desired risk appetite in that policy.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions?
I had one question. Thanks, Councillor Khan. It was in relation to volunteers across the organisation that So I suppose maybe I'll be to the point is, do all of our volunteers get inducted? Do they have an induction process? Because I'm well aware that other organisations external to council invite, second, encourage, use all those words to have volunteers actively involved in a project or an event without not necessarily having to go through a safety or a hazard awareness induction. So I'd just simply like to know, does our organisation across all units, across all business units, have an induction process for short and long-term volunteers who contribute their time, effort, commitment over and above and beyond on for the benefit of our council and our region?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Churchill. We have multiple business units across council who utilise the support from volunteers, and what we've found when our risk and insurance officer looked at that is that there's varying approaches. So we have identified a piece of work in the future to standardise that, and so that every volunteer who comes to council is getting a very similar experience, but it's not something that we're doing right at this point, but we have definitely identified it for the future. There is some level of induction that is happening, but it's certainly not to the extent that our employees are inducted into the business.
And the reason for my question is quite simple, is that I'm well aware in certain areas, art gallery, museum, our entertainment centre, etc., do it extremely well as part of that induction, and then the more informal process is to try and get someone in to help at a certain time or a certain circumstance. So my question, I suppose, is are we exposed to any risk at the moment? I'm pleased to hear that you're going to take it organisation-wide, but is there a risk at the moment? If there is it high, medium, low risk?
There's inherent risk in everything that we do. So yes, we are exposed to some level of risk. However, we do also have insurance policies and things to assist us with managing that risk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And also prior to events as well, for instance, like Luminous, all the volunteers get together and, you know, the do's and don'ts and, you know, if there's any medical emergencies or whatever else. So I think that really covers that, like, presently, what we're doing. I think that's, because I sat in on the one at Illuminous and I was very impressed about how the staff went through to do that. So, yeah.
The intent of my question is not miscreant. It was more exposure to risk based on making sure that we are consistent in, if we're doing it extremely well in one area, we should be doing it extremely well in the other areas as well.
We might just bring it back to the agenda item, thank you councillors, around the risk management policy and risk appetite. We do have a recommendation there for the risk appetite. Did anyone have any questions or queries around the risk appetite? No?
Just to clarify, if I can, Mr Deputy Mayor, that we haven't actually set the appetite against each of those areas, so we're asking council to nominate.
In the report later, it does determine that if it wishes to remain the same, that we can remove that it remain the same.
Absolutely.
So that is an option for council. I do have one question. In the report, it does say risk appetite, while aspirational, should also be achievable given council's operating environment and constraints, including budget. When considering risk appetite, council should look forward rather than interrogating previous decisions or risk management activities. Now, I'm comfortable with all of the set risk appetites in the graph there, with the exception of environment and regulatory and legal. Not because we don't want to have a minimal risk appetite in those two sections, but I understand that we have considerable regulatory challenges, particularly around quarries and a whole range of different things. We don't want to go into specific items, but there are some aspects where we do not achieve, in my view, the minimal aspirational target that we have set. That comes at a cost, which is also identified in the report. And in my view, we should more appropriately align the achievable outcome with the aspirational target. That's my view, which I believe, and I'm happy to stand corrected, but I believe would actually enable us to take more pragmatic approaches to addressing some of these issues. So I would be comfortable at moving the environmental and regulatory and legal, or to discuss anyway, moving that to moderate, which I feel better reflects where we actually sit. To me, there's no point having an aspirational target that you can't achieve or that you consistently don't achieve. But I'm happy to put that out for discussion for councillors' thoughts. Or any advice from officers as to whether or not that is a terrible idea. Please speak now.
But surely risk is inherent in any of our council functions.
Yep.
And that was appropriately why I was asking the question in relation to volunteers, because volunteers don't want to be over-tasked with what they're required to do. I've seen some organisations so much when they move it to minimal or open that before you know it, you're losing your volunteers. I know we're dealing with a different circumstance and yeah.
Councillor Muscat.
Thank you. I guess we need to actually, I know there's a bit of a negative connotation about moving from a minimum to a moderate risk appetite, but what we need to remember is that it's not necessarily a negative thing. Risk is, we just said, it's present in everything that we do. Having minimal risk appetite is not just about avoiding negative things, which can happen anyway. It's about also being flexible in the approaches that we take to get the results that we need. So, and sometimes we might take something that could be considered as a bit of a more risky approach, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to have the good outcomes that we're seeking. So, and I go back again to the definition of risk, and the definition to me is not a negative one. It's actually providing us with more flexibility to look at different solutions. And if we were to have a minimal risk to everything, then we won't be implementing, say, new technological solutions, new environmental ideas, new ways of doing things, because we might consider that is actually has a little bit of risk and our appetite is minimal, so we won't go ahead. And that isn't really the organisation that I want to be involved in, because without at least some sort of risk, we actually don't get any outcomes. We just get the same thing that we have. And this isn't about being tolerant of poor outcomes, not at all. It's about being flexible to come up with better solutions. So I would agree with Councillor Goodluck if we were to set some of our other, I guess, corporate risk categories to a moderate risk instead of a minimal risk.
And if I just read the financial and resource implications. Risk management activities are accommodated in Council's annual operating budget. A lower risk appetite may limit Council's ability to pursue opportunities and require additional investment in risk controls. This is where I believe we sit in certain areas. Now, when we talk about health and safety and wellbeing, obviously we take a minimal approach. The health and safety of our people and our community is first and foremost. Financial, we already have a moderate risk because everything we do financially probably has a moderate level of risk. That doesn't mean we don't try to make wise financial investment decisions, which is debatable around the table, I'm sure. But reputation, we have minimal. Environment and regulatory and legal. This is where I believe we may be spending additional resources. And let's not forget, regulatory and legal and environment are subject to state and federal legislation. There is certain things that you have to do, irrespective of what we set our risk appetite to, and we will do that as a council, as a local government. We have to do that. Where I believe that portion in the financial and resource implications there that says a lower risk appetite may limit council's ability to pursue opportunities and require additional investment. I think that we sit in that space in some aspects of the council, and by lowering our risk, bringing up our risk appetite to a moderate level of risk might enable us to actually get better outcomes in some of those areas.
Can I just say, is there residual risk too?
That's right,
So
and that
it's
doesn't
not-
mean we don't
yeah,
manage
So we need to make
the risk.
yeah.
We still manage the risk, but it means we might not, be spending lots and lots of resources to achieve an outcome that we just might physically never be able to achieve. So I guess I would be happy, unless there's other questions or comments or on that, to move that if we want to have that. Is there any other question? Councillor Trevor?
Thanks, Chair. I don't agree. We've only got one environment, and if we destroy it, it's gone forever. I think our risk in relation to at least environment should always be minimal. The issue for me is that we are an industrial city, and whilst we are an industrial city, we also have to manage our environment to ensure that our environment is not destroyed. And the same, I think, applies for legal and regulatory. The law is black or white, and it should be interpreted as such. And for that reason, I think we should be adopting minimal risk in relation to our legal obligations and responsibilities, not only as the presiding local government, but as a good corporate community citizen, because we set the bar that others should follow. And I don't think increasing either of those to a moderate risk is the best outcome, nor is it in the best interests of our community. That's my personal views. And I'm sorry I didn't turn my microphone on.
No.
The law is the law, Councillor Trevor, and we cannot breach that law. But if we look through our audit and business improvement committee minutes, we will see that there are some places that doesn't happen. That's not that we don't manage that risk and manage those issues, but we do not achieve that minimal risk appetite. Councillor Muscat, was there any other questions?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment. I'm not opposed to regulatory and legal, but I agree with Councillor Trevor in relation to environment. I think our environment needs to be extremely minimal, but I would like to know what the trade-off is, and I'd love to hear from the General Manager at this particular stage, because when we talk about law and we talk about the regulations and we talk about the enacted law, be it from the state government in the local government, and as you indicated, our ARIC committee are extremely proactive in that area. But our responsibility is to also advocate for change. And if there are opportunities that do arise where the current law is not suitable for us, then we should be advocating for change, or at least considering policy change, or change in substance that relates to the law of the land that's relevant to our residents and ratepayers. I still believe, and that's what we do with our motions when we go up to the LGAQ and the Australian Local Government Association Conference. We actually have motions there to challenge the regulations. We have motions there to challenge aspects of law, whether there's precedence or not. We still have a role to play. So I'm not opposed to taking regulatory and legal to moderate, but I would be opposed to moving environment, Councillor Khan, but love the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go Councillor Muscat and then we'll go to Mayor Matt Burnett. I believe he's got a comment as well.
Thank you. I know, we're in a situation where we're debating. I have to say that I feel really, really uncomfortable at the fact that because I believe we need to be more flexible and accept a moderate residual risk after complying with all our legal obligations, then that for some reason we could be portrayed as wanting to destroy the environment or not fulfilling our obligations or legal obligations. That is not in any way, shape or form what we are trying to do here or what I am trying to do here. So I understand it's really nice to get a bit emotional and all that, but that isn't what we're discussing. We have a long track record here us as individual councillors, and we will know who and who isn't in favour of always protecting and standing up for our environment. So I am a little bit disturbed about that. So, but never mind. Again, we look at when we read this the policy. Council takes conservative approach to the trade-off between residual risk and return. This isn't risk. This is residual risk and return. So a conservative approach. We all know, I mean, anyone will know that risk isn't a bad thing. Risk is about doing things to get results. If we continue to do the same thing constantly, we will not get better results. So by being a little bit less conservative, I'm not being negative or calling for negative things or bad outcomes to happen. In fact, I see it the other way around. I'm seeing the glass half full instead of half empty. So I will, if we have to come to some sort of consensus and leave the environment residual risk at a minimum, I will, be happy to do that. But again, I will lean to take that also the environment residual risk to a moderate if the rest of the councillors would go with it. But
thank you, Councillor Muscat. And I think when you take a low risk approach, you're also taking a low risk approach to the possible solutions and innovation that you can implement to get solutions. That means you don't look at all the opportunities, perhaps because your risk tolerance is so low that it has to be clear lines. I believe there's space for us to do things better, more efficiently, with a slightly higher, moderate risk approach. That's personal, but I hear there's lots of different views, and I think we'll go to Mayor Matt because he's got a question or comment on the matter.
Yeah, thanks, Khan. I love what you're saying there about our corporate strategies, connect, innovate, diversify, and where we can innovate, we absolutely should, but I can't support moving our environment out of minimal because I'd like our officers to come back at another point in time and say to us, how can you do those innovations you're talking about? How can we achieve better environmental outcomes without adjusting that risk appetite? I think, as Councillor Trevor said, the industrial capital of the state, if not the nation, we can't be sending a message to any future or current industrial proponent or state or federal government that as a council we accept anything better or anything less than absolute environmental excellence. And so I would like to leave that the same. Happy to support your recommendation to move legal and regulatory, but certainly like to leave environment where it is, and maybe our officers can come up with other ways they can be innovative without moving our risk appetite, because and for everybody else listening online, they'll be thinking, what's the council suggesting here? And I know what you're saying, you're wanting a better outcome, but that's not what the message will be sent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've read the room, so I'm going to move a motion that we leave all the appetite markers where they are, with the exception of regulatory and legal, that be moved to a moderate risk approach. I'm happy to accept that. And I do think, though, Mr. Mayor, when we look at the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee meeting minutes, you see that these are very much aspirational and they're not always achievable.
Happy
but
to
I'm
second,
happy with that.
happy to second your motion,
Councillor Churchill's got a seconder. Are there any further questions or comments?
There's no way in which we can get better environmental outcomes in this time and age if we don't take a moderate approach to residual risk. We wouldn't even have any of the new technologies coming in here if it wasn't because we are moving from a conventional and conservative approach to environment. So I'm going to vote against it. Thank you. Even though I understand where you come from. Thank
Okay,
you.
Councillor Muscat. That's fair enough. Any further questions or comments? I'm going to put that motion. It was moved by myself, seconded Councillor Churchill. Will put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Okay, they'll declare it carried. Thank you. And you all thought this was going to be an easy meeting, eh? Thank you very much, councillors. And Mark, we've got you again. Sorry, mate. Item number G/4.4, specialised supplier, Paulette Flint, and back to you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I've got Claire Robinson with us from the Art Gallery, who'll be able to answer any questions you may have in this space. This is with respect to looking at endorsing Paulette Flint as a specialised supplier for the purpose of outworking one of our RADIF grants, which is around the digitisation of our honour boards. Paulette has done a body of work already in this space and has a lot of already knowledge in the space. So we believe, based on essentially the experience, the specialised nature of what we're looking at, it essentially is impractical to go out and seek anyone else to do this work. And it's on that note, on that basis that we're proposing this recommendation for you.
Thank you, Mark. Councillor O'Grady. Happy to move. Seconded Councillor Branthwaite. No further questions. We'll put the motion. All those in favour? We declare it carried. Thank you. We move now, item number G/4.5, Community Investment Program, Strategic Project Applications, and our General Manager for Community and Lifestyle, Kylie Lee, has had to leave for another meeting briefly, but we've got Bree Johnson, Manager of Community Partnerships. Thank you, Bree. Bri.
Thank you. Here to present this morning the Strategic Projects Fund. We had a number of very strong applications this round. Unfortunately, as we all know, the budget only goes so far. However, the panel has recommended full funding to the top-rated applicant, which was the Gladstone Auto Club, at a value of $47,307, and partial funding to the second-rated applicant, which was CQ Drag Racing Association, at $52,692. So all of the applications were assessed in accordance with the new community investment policy, which came through this boardroom last month, and the applications were all assessed by the same three panel members with a moderation process following. So the four key selection criteria that each application is rated on include the fund objective and aims, demonstrable need, provides opportunity for collaboration and encourages multi-use, and timeliness of delivery. So also just of note, as of this morning, the Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sport have actually brought forward some of their funding that they were going to open in January, so they've brought that forward until September round, so we will also be advising the unsuccessful applicants of that funding availability. I'll open up for any questions.
Thanks, Bri. Any questions? Councillor Hanson?
Just a comment. You followed the process impeccably, and I've read through all of the comments that all of the assessors did. It's great to see so many, 4 of the 5 applicants being such a high standard, and I'm not sure as if we should look at increasing somewhere down the track amount of money that's available in this program.
So currently we have one round per year at the value of $100,000.
Yeah, so maybe that's something that we can keep in our minds to look for into the future. because we've got some very strong applications there.
But considering that we have that amount of money for a number of years, actually, too. So I believe 100,000 has been for many years now, the limit, so.
Yes, it has been, yeah. I'm just saying we may have to look at that moving forward.
Especially with all the increases in costs and
Increasing
everything.
costs and whatever, yes. But as far as the process has been done, it's been great and a great outcome for the people, the two organisations that won the money.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson, and happy to take that forward with budget considerations in future years.
Councillor Trevor.
Sorry, Chair, I'm good. I just wanted to support the sentiments of Councillor Hanson. The applications were fantastic, and there's always, apparently in this life, got to be winners and there's got to be losers. I'd like to see everybody being winners, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, there are fiscal constraints imposed upon everybody, and it's unfortunate that some people have to miss out in life, but it is what it is. But I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Rick that there should be a revisitation of the amount or quantum that we set aside for this particular program in years to come.
Thanks, Councillor Trevor. We'll go to Mr Mayor online.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Right, it was netball and Clinton. I haven't got. I've shut down my. They were like very, very close in terms of scoring. Is that correct?
78%.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
There's only a number of percentage points between the top 4 applications.
Excellent. And the netball particularly have applied a couple of times. If this is carried as a recommendation, and I accept your recommendation, what does it do in terms of netball's ability to get that project done? Does it, if we opened up a second round or if we increase the funding at a later date, is it too late for them, or are they going to miss out on another pool of funding?
I would suggest we would have to go through the application process again.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Hanson and Councillor Trevor. I think it's time we increase this pool of funding and potentially open up a second round, but that's not a decision for today, but thank you.
Councillor Branthwaite. At the moment, sorry. Councillor. You're right. Sorry, Councillor.
You're right, Councillor Rick. I just, you come back to a comment that you made during your presentation that the ones that are missed out, you're going to be helping them or you're informing them of funding through the state government. Is that right?
Yeah, look, we provide advice on some of the other grant funding that is available, and we also have Grant Guru through our website, which we encourage all of our applicants to sign up with, so they're aware of what funding is available, not only from council but across the nation.
Do we give them support to help with their application for that?
We participate in the grant writing workshop, which is held by Glenn Butcher's office, but we don't specifically help them with their applications, no.
Is there any way we can?
We might have to take that offline, Councillor Branthwaite, for another session.
Anyway, it was worth a go.
I was just going to reiterate
Councillor
that
Hanson.
Sorry, through you, Mr Chair. I have to reiterate, we have a process here, and the process has been followed impeccably, and the outcome is what it is, and unfortunately some miss and some miss out and some get them. But yes, I believe the group is working towards assisting any time they can to get better applications from all sporting organisations. Well, I hope they are anyway, and I believe you are. So there.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron, and then we'll go to Councillor O'Grady.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Look, just on the Calliope football application, which was unsuccessful, it says here that the total amount requested is $76,364, and the total project cost is $19,091. Is that right, or is that a typo?
That would be taken from the application, so the applicants, that's their information that they've input into there.
So they've got it back the front, haven't they?
I'm not sure. It says supporting funding, 19, that's on the screen there. So total amount 76, total project 95. supporting funding. So that's the contribution from the club, I think. Is that correct?
Well, they've got total project cost here of $19,091.
It might be in the, is that in the assessment form, not in what's in the report? Yeah, okay.
It pulls that information directly out of their application.
So we're saying there's a different, what's in the assessment to what's in
It's
the
on the
report.
screen,
That's
you can
on the
see it right
screen.
there.
It's,
The total amount requested
it's got
is
it right.
76 and the total project cost is the 19,000, so. And it's saying support funding is coming from the Blight Football Club.
Okay.
Just to clarify, the officer's report does an overview of the whole application, whereas the assessor's report that you're reading is a read only, and that extracts from their application, whereas this officer's report is the overview of all the information. So it's from two separate.
So that wouldn't have any bearing on the assessment scoring, you don't think?
No, councillor, unfortunately, because that the responses to that application actually scored so low, they weren't recommended for funding
Well, I'd
regardless
score
of the
it low
value.
too if they asked for 76,000 or 70-odd thousand for a 19,000 job. I wouldn't give them any money either.
No, but, sorry, besides that, councillor, besides that, the application wasn't up to standard on all of the other aspects as well.
Fair enough.
Councillor Grady.
I'd just like to congratulate you on choosing these two, especially for the sports precinct, this precinct down at Banaraby. So that's just going, you know, council did that a long time ago and took a leap to have them all down there in the same area. So it's just so good to see that all happening, actually working together and all happening together. So no, it's great. Thank you so much.
Councillor Hanson.
Happy
And
to
I'm going
move.
to, okay, put the
Officer's
motion.
recommendation.
Move Councillor Hanson, second Councillor Grady. No further questions. We're going to put the motion. All those in favour, declare it carried. Thank you very much. We move now to item number G/4.6, Developing in Northern Australia Conference 2023, and in the absence of the General Manager for People and Safety, Carly Quinn, who's had to leave for another meeting, we do have our Manager of Economic Development lead, Gary Scanlon, and we'll hand it over to you, mate. Thank you. Gary, all yours. Gary or Daryl, I believe this is a team effort, but yep.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, once again, Council attended the Developing Northern Australia Conference. It was one of the biggest conferences that they've run to date. Again, a lot of commonality across the risks and issues of developing in Northern Australia, and the issues that we're facing here with decarbonisation, skills, enabling infrastructure, housing, Indigenous-led development. Certainly very strong themes. Certainly a lot of investment, but not a lot of answers were coming out of the conference as well. From our point of view, Councillor Branthwaite presented the roadmap to standing room only room. The roadmap, apart from Councillor Branthwaite's presentation, was a reoccurring theme at the conference. Our consultant, Dr. Amanda Cahill from the Next Economy, also presented on the roadmap twice with a working session and then also a keynote address as well. But certainly it was a key theme of decarbonisation and the contestability of renewable energy and the changing decarbonised economy in Northern Australia. I think the value from our presentation and the value from our representation always goes to the engagement with the rest of Northern Australia and all the other entities and organisations in Northern Australia. I think Councillor Branthwaite can comment, but I think we had some great engagement, some really good discussions about strategies and coping mechanisms for the changing economy in Northern Australia. And in particular, Northern Australia always struggles with getting people and retaining people, as we all are now at the moment, and retaining their skills there. So with that, I think it was a valuable exercise for council, and as I've said, council should consider attendance at the next conference, which will be in the Great Northwest in Karratha next year. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. We might go to yourself, Councillor Branthwaite, if there's anything to add.
Oh, look, I was really super duper impressed with the way the conference was conducted. I was really impressed with the fact that Brand Gladstone is so well known. I made the point of going like the Alga conference and how Brand Gladstone was portrayed down there in Canberra, but this was on a different level again, and people were all talking about transition. There's a lot of communities transitioning for one reason or another. Some are transitioning with energy, some are transitioning away from fossil fuels. There's all sorts of reasons there. But as Gary said, the main things that come up, the three subjects that always come up was the lack of skills, the lack of housing, and there was also this other one was social licence. It's becoming more and more prevalent that communities are saying, well, what are you doing for our community? How are you wanting us support? How are you going to bring us along for the ride? So, it was a very good conference, and there was a lot of questions being asked to how we engage with community, and how that was reported back. But having Amanda there and keynote speaking and doing a workshop, and then our presentation, which, as Gary said, was standing room only. There was a lot of people there really listening, and there's another 300 people watching online all across the world. So it was a fantastic exposure, and obviously presentation that the council was able to prepare and showcase to the world, and it really did inform a lot of people on what's been happening around our community and leading the way. It was a real congratulations to everybody involved with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Branthwaite. Might invite you to move the...
Yes, I would like to move that.
Moved, Councillor Branthwaite. Can I get a second, Councillor Hanson? Any further questions, councillors? No? We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Declare it carried. Thank you. We move now to councillor reports. Are there any councillor reports? Councillor Hanson.
Briefly, through you, Mr Chair, myself and Waste Manager Chris Irving attended the Lawmac meeting held in Ingham and hosted by the Hinchinbrook Shire Council on the 16th, 17th and 18th of last month. I have sent the presentations to all of the councillors and to our officers, so if there's any questions out of that, they can talk to our officers. But the most interesting topics were the problem with lithium batteries and how we dispose of them, and there's a lot of them going through to general waste, which is causing real problems with fires. And there was other discussions that were quite interesting was on bin tagging that the Hinchinbrook Shire Council does itself. A presentation on residual waste levy exemption, which was something that is very interesting as well. But all of the items that were discussed and the presentations have been forwarded on to councillors for your review, and if you have any questions, please get back to us. So, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hanson. Councillor Churchill. Councillor Churchill.
No, look, just a quick one. I had the opportunity to attend the Heart of Agnes Water inaugural AGM recently. Found the gathering was extremely positive, progressive and proactive. I believe that the AGM report has been distributed to all elected members and the executive leadership team. I provided a hard copy to the CEO yesterday. Please take the time to excuse me, please take the time to read it. They were extremely complimentary in the AGM report of wanting to work with council in the past, currently and into the future. So the executive have been re-elected, Mr Mulligan as the president, and appropriately looking forward to their official launching of the Moby Mat down on Agnes Water Beach coming later on this month, I believe. Thank you.
Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to follow up on a question that in relation to Rick's report, and that was the lithium batteries. And I'm not too up to speed on all this new technology, so please forgive me. But obviously they are of an explosive nature, and I wondered whether council currently charges to drop a battery off at at the local dump. Do we have a charge on that? And actually, that's my first question.
I'd have to take that question on notice, Councillor Trevor. I know there are various collection points for lithium batteries in communities everywhere, but I'd take that one on notice and get back to you.
And the second question is, following on taking that one on notice, CEO, is if it is becoming a problem, not only in Gladstone but also in other communities, whether we should at least, as a council, perhaps a leading council that we are, whether we should consider, if there is a cost, making the cost of delivery of batteries to our waste facilities free, in an effort to try and avoid that safety risk to the collectors of our rubbish, and those who are in close vicinity to our rubbish, our workers.
Certainly have a look at that and get back to you. I think some of the issues are around sorting and them being thrown into the general waste bin. So I think our waste education officer that we're putting on this year will help with that aspect of it as well. But certainly look into if there's any cost that's prohibiting people from doing that. Thank you.
It certainly is an education thing mainly, and I think we had an instance of one of the cleanaway trucks you would have seen the last couple of weeks caught fire going down the main Dawson Highway there and had to pull off and empty the load. I'm not sure if that was the lithium battery that caused that, but we've had many fires around the state in waste transfer stations because of the battery. So it's more of an education thing as to where that they should not go into general waste at all. They should be gathered, and we have to do something a little bit better than what we are collecting them at the moment. So.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Muscat, before we move on.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a quick note of Blue Care's birthday, 70 years in operation since 1953, and a few of us attended the celebration, and it was great to see this facility is managed as part of Uniting Care, people that have been very a huge part of our community for many years and do work for the benefit of their clients and people. That's it. So happy birthday again.
Happy birthday, Blue Care. Thank you, councillors. We move on now. We've got no notice of motions, but we do have a confidential item. I'll call for a mover in accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012, Section 254J. It is proposed to close the meeting to discuss one confidential business item, item number G/8.1, Tender 134-23 roads and civil infrastructure upgrades and renewals. Various projects will be closed under Section 254J, negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of the local government, as this item will discuss contract negotiations. Can I please have a mover that we move in confidential? Move Councillor O'Grady, seconded Councillor Trevor. We'll put the motion. All those in favour, we'll declare that carried.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Thank you, and we're back now considering item number G/8.1, tender 134-23 roads and civil infrastructure upgrades and renewals, various projects. We have Can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please, councillors, if there is one? Councillor Cameron, seconding Councillor Branthwaite, that council endorses the tender evaluations panel recommendations to award tender roads and civil infrastructure upgrades and renewals to multiple contractors, subject to finalising project allocations, funding agreements and capital program, and authorise the CEO to enter into the resulting contracts when satisfied with the outcomes above. We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Declare that carried. Thank you, and that brings us to the end of our meeting at 10:42 a.m.